What is the meaning of having a deal with the devil in a dream? The devil represents the forbidden. The devil represents the misunderstood, the hidden, and organized evil. But if you were to boil all of those different meanings down, it really represents the shadow self. This is the part of your ego that only cares for itself. It is a black hole of self-regard, self-interest, self-pleasure, self. It eats and eats, but is never full. Just remember, according to Christian tradition, the devil started out as one of the highest angels, the most beautiful angel, Lucifer. You know what Lucifer means in Latin? The light bringer. He was that magnificent. He was that beautiful. He was one of the first creations. And his sin was he started believing his own press. His sin is that he allowed pride to take over his being to the point that he felt he knew better than God. The created usurping the rights of the Creator. How absurd is that? But don't feel too smug. We all do this. I know I did when I worked at a company. At some point, as I transitioned from being a trainee to a mid-level employee and after several promotions, I started thinking that I'm better than my boss, that I knew better than them, that they were idiots, that they were running the company to the ground. Of course, the company went on to greater heights long after I've gone. Who knew, right? Well, that's human nature. We always think we know better than people who are in a higher position than us. So, when you see yourself making a deal with the devil, you are ultimately subconsciously portraying to yourself, trying to come to grips with your pride and ego. This can be a good thing because pride and ego can work for you just as they can work against you. You are trying to come up with some sort of happy compromise where you serve yourself first, and just by sheer coincidence, others benefit too. Unfortunately, for most people, this selfishness works against them. This is how relationships become toxic and one-sided. This is how work relationships become grinding experiences that destroy souls. This is how low self-esteem and depression actually are formed and sustained. Believe it or not, depression is one of the most common manifestations of ego fixation. You're so fixated on your problems that eventually you functionally believe that the universe turns on your problems, that whatever problems you have is the most severe, the most pathetic in the world. And then at some point, you reach a point of helplessness because it seems like nothing changes, and then before you know it, you feel hopeless and you come to the conclusion that the world would be better off without you, and then you kill yourself. Tragic, because anybody can step into your situation and say, snap out of it. It's not that serious. Why? There are tons of people in a worse-off position than you. But that's one of the first things that you lose when you have that super dense ego that the devil represents. You lose perspective. Just as Lucifer lost perspective, people lose perspective all the time, and here you are trying to come up with a deal with the devil in your dreams, so that the ego works for you instead of against you. Well, pay close attention because it's all about the contextual cues of your dream. What exactly are you getting from the deal, and what does the devil have to do, and what is due? Of course, we all know the end to this story, which is the devil gets your soul. Again, this is not predictive. This is not a prophecy of what will happen in your life. Instead, look at this in allegorical terms. What is the symbol? What is your soul? Your soul is your full potential as a human being, and you are trying to bargain with the dark shadow of your ego, the ego that is narcissistic, the ego that is just like a black hole that only cares for itself. So, the key here is to try to make sense of this deal and ask yourself, is there a better deal? Thank you for watching this video. If this video has blessed you in any way, please help us help others by clicking this video's like button and hitting the subscribe button. Let me throw an idea out for you. Maybe it will work in your situation. Maybe it will apply. When I just got out of college, I worked for a sales company, and the company was a purely commission. If you know what you're doing, you can make a hell of a lot of money, and that's big money, and that's how they got me because the potential income was definitely more income than I could even imagine right after college. So, I signed up, and sure enough, I struggled because I did not know how to sell, and I continued to struggle until one chance or random encounter I had with the top salesman, Mike. You know what Mike told me? He said, "Pay attention to what I do. Just watch me. I'm not going to give you any secrets because most people, when you tell them secrets, they immediately forget about it." And I believe him because how many make money online courses do you see available on the internet? And believe it or not, a lot of them work, but most people still fail. Why? Because they think that by buying stuff, they're actually changing their lives. You actually have to use them. You actually have to listen. In other words, you actually have to humble yourself and reduce your ego. People didn't want to do that. And that was ultimately what Mike's lesson was, because when I saw him do a sale, it blew my mind. Usually, what I would do and any other salesman on that floor would do is they would ask the prospect what they're looking for. And once they give them the category, like I'm looking for a blender, for example, we automatically direct them to the most expensive blender. Again, this is not rocket science because the most expensive blender, of course, has a bigger commission. There's a bigger payday for us. Again, not rocket science. But most people didn't think that that's not what the person needs. Maybe it has too many bells and whistles. Maybe it's just too expensive. Mike flipped that model on its head. Instead, he listened to people. He just kept asking question after question after question. He's trying to understand, what are these people looking for? What are the problems that they're trying to solve? And what is the actual best solution for that problem? And a lot of times, the best solution is not what the solution that the client had in mind. You see how this works? It's all about their best interest. And then at the end, he zeroed in. What experience are they looking for? So when people buy a blender, they're actually looking for experience. They're looking for comfort. They're looking for convenience. They're looking for that sense of freedom. And a lot of people who buy blenders actually want smoothies because they want to cut down on calories. So there's that added dimension. So as I watched Mike, it hit me like a silver bullet striking my brain. For you to sell, you must first serve. And for you to serve, you have to set your ego aside. Be a servant. And Mike was a servant. He wasn't imposing his expertise, although he had a lot of expertise, and he was by that time a millionaire or even a multimillionaire. But you couldn't tell from the scene. It's just a guy sincerely helping people.
No ego.
Full humility. And he closed sale after sale after sale. If he was a baseball player, he would be hitting home runs with every swing of the bat. I was just floored, and it changed my perspective. And it turned out that for you to gain the world, you have to first let go of yourself. Now, where did that come from? That came from the Bible. Jesus himself said that. For what shall it profit a man if he shall gain the whole world and lose his own soul? The Gospel of Mark. So flip that. If you have a soul of service, you gain. In fact, the Bible said in Apostle Paul in Philippians, to die is gain and to live is Christ. And Christ keeps saying, if you want to be exalted, you have to be humble. In other words, if you want to be a leader, serve. If you want to be on top, help out at the bottom. So, maybe that is your answer to the deal with the devil. Because any deal with that part of yourself that is a black hole of ego, that eats and eats and eats, is never full, or drinks and drinks and drinks and is still thirsty, is a race to the bottom. There are many billionaires on this planet that die lonely and depressed. And all that money in the world is not going to make that black hole in the middle of their soul go away. You know what will? Service. Humility. So try that. You'd be surprised. If this video has blessed you in any way, please help us help others by clicking this video's like button and hitting the subscribe button. Please click the share button and share this video on all your social media accounts. Please help us help others unlock their full potential by understanding their dreams better.